Hey everybody, Rockin Robbie Billups here for Pop Culture Philosophers, and it's time once again for the weekly comic book review. Alright gang, weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a bunch of comics and I tell you what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week, Detective Comics 950. If you've been watching these videos, you know I am completely enamored with Detective Comics right now. I'm sorely disappointed in Batman. I really don't like All-Star Batman at all. But Detective Comics, I just adore. If you read Batman and thoroughly enjoyed it in the 90s, I highly recommend this book. Even the early 2000s. If you liked stuff like Nightfall and Contagion and Legacy and No Man's Land, this is the book you like. This is the book you want. Like, this has got the feel of those books from the 90s. And one thing that this book, Detective Comics, has taught me is that as cool as Batman is as a character, I find him way more intriguing and engaging when his entire family is around him. Batwoman, Tim Drake as Red Robin, spoiler, Cassandra Cain as Orphan. These people, these other characters in Batman's life, they bring more to the story than I ever thought. I always took them for granted. Nightwing and all the Robins, all the Batgirls, all that stuff. But I really think that's important to Batman, and maybe that's why Detective Comics just speaks to me so much. I love this book. This is 950. It's an anniversary issue. It's $3.99, but it's thick. It's got 3 great stories in it. It's got a main story about Orphan that sets up the whole League of Shadows story coming up or something like that. League of Assassins or Shadows or whatever they want to call it this time. But so there's that. Then there's a really cool story with Azrael and Batwing, and it's kind of like a science versus religion kind of thing, almost in a way. And it's got this really nice little tale at the end with Tim Drake and Batman that really sets up, all these stories really set up the next year for Detective Comics. Written by James Tynion IV with some fantastic artwork from Eddie Barrows and others. Like, this book has been so good, guys. Detective Comics is amazing. I highly recommend it. Check it out. My favorite Batman book, period. Justice League of America Rebirth #1. So Justice League of America is here. I'm kind of nervous because this is a very odd team. Like, I'm cool with Black Canary and the Atom, even Vixen, even the Ray, but Lobo, Killer Frost. This is such a random mix of characters for a Justice League of America team that I really was expecting a different team for this, but when you read the book, it does make sense, and I found this book to be actually very enjoyable. So it's written by Steve Orlando, and he did a very good job in this first issue, this Rebirth one-shot, of setting up the team, who everybody is. Ivan Reyes does the artwork, and if you like his stuff, you'll love this because it's more of the same. His work is really cool. He's like a modern-day Neil Adams. He's got the right level of crazy superheroic type stuff, but just enough realism to keep it grounded. I really like this book. I actually thought it was really cool, and I wasn't super annoyed by Lobo like I usually am, but it is a very random mix of characters like A-lister, C-lister, D-lister, B-lister, like they're all in there. But so far, this is a really good issue, and it's very intriguing, I guess, to see where it goes, how it's going to turn out. Justice League, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, #2. I really enjoyed #1, very much surprisingly so. I really liked issue 2 as well. It's got some really humorous moments. It's kind of funny. It's got really cool artwork by Stephen Byrne. Tom Taylor's actually doing a good job. I think it makes a lot of sense how their little battle, their little skiff that they have amongst each other, the Power Rangers and the Justice League. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a fun book. Fans of Power Rangers will adore this. Justice Leaguers, I mean, it just depends on your level of tolerance for the Power Rangers, I guess. But if you have any question, yes, the Power Rangers are that powerful. They are that badass. Like, just saying, they really, really are. But this book has been really, really fun. The Flash #16. I have loved Joshua Williamson's Flash run. Ever since Rebirth started, I have adored Flash. I think Flash is a great book. This Rogues Reloaded story is even better than anything that's come before. Carmine DiGiandomenico does the artwork, and it is perfect for the Flash. It's fluid, it's dynamic, it moves. Ivan Placencia's colors are a revelation in this book. I love this, but this Rogues Reloaded story, it's one of my favorite stories I've ever read so far, 3 issues in, involving the Rogues. There's so many twists, so many things like people tricking other people and this and that and whatever, and these dynamic, crazy covers, and Mirror Master is one of my favorites. But this is a great issue. It focuses a lot on Heatwave, but I cannot tell you guys how much I enjoy reading Flash every month, twice a month actually, so that's really cool. Wonder Woman number 16. So Greg Rucka is going to continue telling alternating stories, one set in present day, one set in the past. This is part 1 of Godwatch, which is set in the past. Really cool, really cool. It's got artwork from a new artist, not Nicholas Scott, but Bill Key, Evely. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. But artwork is great. I really liked it. This book is fun. It's really cool. But what's really intriguing to me is it really gets into a little bit about Veronica Cale, who you could think of as Diana's Lex Luthor, for lack of a better analogy. A little bit of revelation on her motive on why she hates Wonder Woman so much, why she is acting the way she is in the present day story. But the way that the present day story and the past stories are kind of going alongside each other in theme and plot even is really cool. And I think Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman has gotten better and better each issue. I think he has refound his voice on this character. Highly recommend it. Action Comics 973. This book was pretty intriguing. It was all right. I think it kind of has a little bit of spillover from Superwoman, the latest issue. Haven't read that, so I'm not super sure. I've only read the first 3 issues of that, and I kind of got lost in it. Maybe I'll go check it out again. So you got Superman dealing with, I think, fallout from Superwoman, but you also got Lois Lane on an undercover mission, and it's pretty cool. And this super creepy Clark Kent stuff, like the other Clark Kent who we don't really know anything about him, but there's another Clark Kent out there living out Clark Kent's life, and he's not Superman, and he is just straight up typical Clark Kent. It's creepy, and it gets really, really creepy in this book, like no kidding. Action Comics has been fun. I'm really excited to get to Superman Reborn. This feels like a little bit of filler, but we shall see what happens, because it promises maybe to at least lead us to a point where some questions about this other Clark Kent get answered. So that's pretty cool. Titans number 8. We're going along DC here. Dan Abnett, I've really been liking the story that he's developing in Titans. I don't really like Brett Booth on the artwork, but I found it even in this one, it was actually a little bit more okay. I just kind of imagined myself being, 12, 13 years old again, reading comics in the 90s. So that's what I did, and I kind of enjoyed the artwork a little bit better. I'm not the hugest Brett Booth fan, but Dan Abnett's crafting a really intriguing story. However, this issue, I think it harkens back to a lot of stuff from Titans Hunt, and I haven't read Titans Hunt, so I was very, very, very lost reading this issue. So I'm going to read Titans Hunt, but of course they're in Manhattan. It's made in Manhattan, or back in Manhattan, or whatever, but they're there because that's what... what's her name? I don't even know her name, and because I didn't read Titans. I don't know. The lady in green, I don't remember her name. I can't believe this, but the lady in green who has like telepathic abilities, she gleaned from Abracadabra the word Manhattan. That might have something to do with the Watchmen, but they think, what, Manhattan? But they're in Manhattan. I don't know. Like I said, a lot of referencing to Titans Hunt, and I felt a little bit lost in that. So let's move on to some Marvel books. We got Kingpin number 1. We had that Bullseye book last week, and I didn't really like it. This Kingpin book, it's all right. I think it's better than the Bullseye book. It's not like it's a bad book. It's actually a good book. It's just, if you watch Daredevil Season 1 and saw Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, this is like a weaker version of that little story in there, almost. Like, not exactly. Instead of Vanessa, there's a journalist. Basically, the gist is that he wants to get this journalist to write his biography. He wants to come clean, maybe. I don't know. But it's like that whole showing the lighter side of Wilson Fisk, but not really. It's exactly what they did in Daredevil Season 1 to me, thematically, but weaker. I don't know. So it wasn't quite for me, but it's not going to stop me from reading the next issue to see how the story develops, because it could develop in a cool way, but it's just... I don't know, something about this just felt a little off to me, like, just a little off. Like, it had forced edginess into it, too, if that makes sense. But the main character, the journalist who's in the book, I actually found that character pretty intriguing, so that's neat. The Unworthy Thor, number 4, that rhymed, and I think this is the penultimate issue. I believe this is just a 5-issue series. I've been enjoying this book, and this issue is the best one yet. No matter what you think about Jane Foster Thor, what they have done with that whole story of Thor losing the worthiness to hold the hammer, what they have done is they have rebuilt Thor from the ground up, and that's what they have done in here. And by the end of this issue, you are so ready, so pumped for Thor again. And that's really, really cool. It's got great artwork. Of course, Oliver Copiel does the main artwork, but you also got Dodderman from the Mighty Thor series doing a little bit, Esad Ribic doing a little bit, and Fraser Irving. Those are some fantastic artists on this one issue. It's a really cool story too, and like I said, they're rebuilding Thor from the ground up. Every once in a while, it can get stale, right? And Thor was getting stale, and they have rebuilt him into a better hero in the book, Unworthy Thor. Fantastic. Power Man and Iron Fist, number 13. I love this book. I think it's great. The story that has been building up since issue 1 is really starting to come to a head. A lot of all the plot lines are starting to come together and intersect, and it's just so good. I love it. This issue, not as humorous as some of the other ones, but it's because stuff's getting real. And I like the fact that this is a book that has a very humorous tone, but when it needs to be real and deep, it gets there and it's fine. And David F. Walker is doing an amazing job with these characters. I believe he was just announced as the writer on the Luke Cage solo ongoing series, and I'm super pumped for that if that's the case. Speaking of this corner of the Marvel Universe, Jessica Jones, number 5. I haven't really liked this book that much. I was a big fan of Bendis and Gaydos on Alias back in the day. This issue feels the most to me like those old issues of Alias, though something still wasn't quite right about it. It was pretty cool, and while I was reading this, I got really nostalgic for that Alias book when it first came out, because for a while here, this is the most like that, I think, out of the 5 issues so far. This is the most like Alias, but it still feels thin. It still feels a little weak, like there's not enough there really, like you're stretching it. One of my problems with Brian Michael Bendis today, not problems, but one of my critiques, I guess, would be that his stories kind of get stretched a little thin sometimes, and I think he devotes too much page time to something that shouldn't be. I don't know. I just feel like he's too decompressed. You know, he needs to be a little bit more dense in his writing, maybe, I think. But this issue was a little bit closer to what I loved about Bendis in the 90s and the early 2000s. So Jessica Jones, I'm on the fence with it. I'm still on the fence with that book. Miss Marvel, number 15. I'm not on the fence with this book. I've loved it since day one. I think this book is brilliant, and it's super fun. They're doing this story about this internet troll and the dangers of that, and how dangerous some of these people can be when it goes beyond fun and games. And I think it's a really good message, and it's not super over the top and preachy. It's really engaging. It's fun. This is a great book. Miss Marvel is a fantastic book. And that's all the Marvel I want to talk about. Got a couple of Image books real quick. East of West, number 31, Jonathan Hickman. This is like his giant masterpiece. This promises to have a really cool finale coming up sometime in the next few years. But this issue was very, very cool, and another intriguing chapter that this war is just building up and building up and building up, and this book is crazy. East of West is always pretty fun. Wicked and the Divine, number 26. Oh, that'd been so funny if it was 29, then that would have rhymed too. But that's going to happen in a few months. Anyway, number 26, Wicked and Divine's a great book. This book's got a lot of action in it. In this particular issue, you get a lot of information too. So it's very action-y and very exposition-y, but it doesn't feel like imbalanced in any kind of way. It actually is super, super fun. Jamie McKelvey on the artwork, like one of the best artists in the business right now, and Matthew Wilson on the colors. This book is gorgeous and it's amazing. Karen Gillan writes it, and this book is just so fun. But like I said, this issue in particular, a lot of action, a lot of new information about the future of this series and in the story. It was a blast. So Wicked and Divine, check it out. East of West is always pretty decent. Jessica Jones, I'm on the fence with, but Unworthy Thor is rebuilding a new Thor, and it's gonna be great. Wonder Woman, give it a chance. It's good stuff. This Flash stuff is brilliant and amazing. Power Rangers is pretty decent too with Justice League. Justice League of America, Rebirth was actually pretty fun, but Detective Comics still impresses me like crazy. What impresses you? Let me know down below, what did you read this week? What did you like? Why did you like it? I love talking to you guys down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please do thumbs up and share this video, and be sure to subscribe, because I do this every single week, a weekly comic book review. That's why it's called the weekly comic book review, obviously, right? Why am I explaining that to you? But we do that every week. We do movie reviews, other things, lots of fun stuff. And our podcast, you can find all that and more at www.popculturephilosophers.com. Thanks for everything. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep reading.